It's time for Booting Up, where we talk to untraditional techies about how they got their career started and how they climbed the ladder once they got into that first job. So today we are going to be talking to an amazing guest, crazy story that you're really going to get drawn deep into and get a lot of inspiration from. They're a software engineer at New York Times, so really smart and worked a toast as well. But before we get into that, if it's your first time here, and make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, and just for everyone that has been attending to all of them, tonight is the last episode of the season. So we saved the best for last, I promise, and just bear with us. But without further ado, let's bring on Charity.
Hello.
Charity, good evening. Happy hump day.
Yeah, I guess we can call it that.
Why? You usually don't like calling it a hump day?
No, we usually call it a hump day. I don't know if we can call it happy. It's been a busy hump day.
Okay. Wow, a lot of things going on at work?
Well, at work, yeah, primarily. It's just a very busy day. But it is actually happy now since I'm on your podcast. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad I could be the part of a positive part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's take it from the top, Charity. So I was like starting, in life before boot camp, before tech and everything. So like growing up and going to school, like college the first time, what was your initial plan in terms of professional life?
My initial plan was to be a doctor, particularly an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to be a doctor from the age 9, and I knew I wanted to be an anesthesiologist from the age 12. So
really particular for age 12. Wow.
Yes, as you can kind of see, I guess, in my progression to me being a software engineer, I'm really goal-oriented, and I've always been like that. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but as a child, I had the same determination that I do now as an adult. So.
Well, yeah, if you start young, you go farther. So I respect that. I know when I was 12, I was just worrying about basketball and video games. So really simple life back then.
Yeah, but at least like look at you now. You're doing well.
Yeah, you can always turn around. It's never too late. So you want to be in like a doctor, anesthesiologist. So when you went to college initially, were you going towards med school, I'm guessing, or?
No. Well, I was going to go to med school, so I was majoring in chemistry, and I was about in my, I believe, third year, and we visited a med school, and we went into the room with the dead bodies, and everything was fine. Until I started hyperventilating and having an allergic reaction. So like they removed me from the room and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I could go back in. They're like, "No, you can't. You're having a really bad allergic reaction." So being with the dead bodies and I guess finding out how the patient died or the cadaver died was a major part of med school that you have to go through. So that kind of ended it for me.
Damn. So when you say allergic reaction, was it's like a chemical that dead bodies release or that they use?
I don't want to say exactly what it is because like I'm definitely allergic to it. So I don't want to put that out there into the world. But it is a chemical that I'm allergic to.
Gotcha. Okay. So that was the roadblock. And then, so at this point, you're like, all right, I can't really go to medical school, go through all this. So what was the next thing?
The next step kind of was like a depression, but I didn't know at that time. So like when you plan your whole life around something as a child, your whole life, yeah. You plan your life around what you think you're going to be, and to have that come crashing down, that's really tough. So I think that, I went to another school and I was closer to home and I was like, I'm just going to get a degree. Like, I don't care what it is. And I just want a degree. And other people like, well, yeah, you can still be a doctor. I was like, no, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. I can't be, that's it. And they're like, well, there's there. And I'm like, no. So instead, like, I was like, I love the study of people. I love sociology. And so I majored in that with a minor in African-American studies. And those topics were obviously really easy for me to discuss, but also very interesting to me. So after I got my degree, I kind of just started working in like at Verizon Wireless, AT&T, you know, all these companies that dealt with technology, because I always loved technology too. So I was always the one on the computer, AOL dial-up, aging myself here, AOL dial-up, also like fixing the printer, finding out all these things, like whatever was wrong with the computer at like 8 years old, I was the one that was like fixing it. So I always had an interest in technology. So it wasn't really any surprise that I started working for like telephone companies.
Gotcha. When you work with them, like what was the job you were doing?
So, you know, I did customer service, I did sales, and, you know, what I ultimately began doing was, you know, troubleshooting phones, like fixing the issues on the user end, basically finding bugs for like HTC, Samsung, Apple, LG, and then reporting them to these companies. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, like I did something. I worked for Apple, so also like tech support for phones. So I probably know some of the crazy stories you've heard, and like people calling with some, like I don't know, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I was a device support center manager for all of Long Island for AT&T, and it was only us. So yes, the stories that you can imagine, that you can't imagine, it all happened.
I got you. So you're working here, you're fixing phones, getting these bugs out to these other companies. So then what was the impetus that made you say, hey, to get into tech? Was that something then, or was it before?
Well, it was then, and at the time I was separated from my then husband, so I had a 3-year-old at that time that I was taking care of by myself. And I was like, I'm finding all these major bugs for these huge companies, and I'm reporting them over the phone, but I'm not getting recognized for it. These people are getting recognized for it. I'm not getting recognized for it. I'm like, so I can build this software without any bugs, you know, obviously not knowing anything about software engineering. But what I did was that I went home, once I had the epiphany, I went home and I looked up how to code, like how do you build programs? And I came across Code Academy. So with Code Academy, I literally, and this is right after I got home from work. So I started coding and 10 hours went by, but it felt like 1 hour. And I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's like career person fit. So like, yeah, if it feels like 1 hour, then you're obviously killing it. So Code Academy is a free resource, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. So
at the time, it was free, I think up to a certain point. I'm not sure. It was so long ago. Well, then again, you also get into why I have memory issues. Yeah. I can't remember if it's completely free or not right now. So I don't want to put wrong information out there.
No, all good. Yeah, and I know I used to do some stuff on there also, like back in the day. But what year is this that we're in right now?
So right now we're in 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start getting exposure. You see, hey, like developing, writing code, like that's my thing. I'm getting lost in the sauce while I'm doing it. So then, were you like, hey, like let me make a career out of this, or were you just like, hey, this is a hobby?
So I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. It was going to be a career. And 2 weeks after that, my friend and I get into a car accident where we're in a 30 mile per hour. Somebody hit us going over 70 in 30 mile per hour zone in a 2-lane street. So from that, I had a traumatic brain injury, unfortunately.
So like, was this car like going 70 miles per hour? Like, is this residential? Like, were they drunk, or is this someone kind of going crazy?
So it was residential. It looked like he was driving fine. So we had no reason to like be afraid, but it's like he accelerated just like out of nowhere. And like when the police came on the scene, they saw that, wow, like this guy was going really fast. Like they didn't even need to do a real analysis. They saw the skid marks and everything like that. But also my friend cut the wheel all the way to the right to avoid him, and he still hit us head on. So he was going at a weird angle too. So from that, I had my traumatic brain injury, which is why sometimes I have trouble with memory. And, I had to relearn how to talk. And by relearn how to talk, I was talking, but my grammar wasn't too well. My like composing a sentence and speaking like an adult, it was kind of like I was a toddler again. Like it was hard for me to form sentences. And my grammar was completely shot. My long-term memory, I don't know what I don't know until somebody in my family brings it up. My short-term memory, like 5 seconds in the past, I wouldn't have known what we were even talking about, and we're right there. So that was tough, relearning, rehabbing, and having to walk and fix my gait because my hip was really messed up, and dealing with a small child and everything. It was tough. It was really, really tough. But I used that instance to be like, this is my time. This is my time to sit still and learn how to code, because I do not want to go back to that job at all. I knew I was meant for more.
Wow. No, like, it's crazy. Like, I can't imagine like waking up and then, like the way you think is changed. You don't remember really what happened. Like you mentioned, like you're having the short-term memory loss too.
Yeah.
Like during that initial time, like I know you eventually turned around like, hey, this is my time to shine. But like during those initial, I guess like first months that you were dealing with this, what were like the thoughts going on then?
The only thing I thought about was like, I had a child that I needed to take care of. One.
Yeah,
and two, I this job isn't going to give me the life that I know I deserve, because I was always an overachiever. So I wasn't, this job may be good for somebody else, but I know it's not good for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make coding my job, because that's something that I knew that I enjoyed just from the 2 weeks prior to the incident, the car accident. So with that, I set up a plan for myself. I was playing like brain games all day, every day, as much as I could, until I had my massive migraines. I was getting really bad migraines. I would play until I got a migraine. And then
is this like Sudoku, or like what kind of brain games?
It was some apps.
Okay, I got two of those. One's called Peak, and the other one's called brain something maybe.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name right now, because like those apps really helped change my life. So because I was playing this app with brain games, I was playing this brain game app, and every day like I felt myself getting better. But of course I would have the setback of a migraine, and I'd have to stop. So between that and then trying to read a page out of a book and without getting a migraine and retaining that information, that was the key thing, retaining that information. Once I was able to actually do that, which is about 2.5 months after the car accident. So the car accident was August 31st. And
2015?
Yes, I think it was August 31st. It was the end of August.
Okay.
So it was between the 28th and the 31st in 2015. And I believe by mid-December, I was able to start going back on the computer. So I think end of November, I was able to read a full page and comprehend what I read, as well as retain that information. And then once I felt comfortable with that, I jumped right to the computer, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, to teach myself how to code back again on Code Academy.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a small burst. And during this time, like I imagine, because the memory is kind of not as good as what before. So you had to kind of adapt new learning methods, right? Because you're not learning as easily as you were before. You have to kind of adapt, make some of the system. So anything that like you still use today that's useful?
Other than being OCD, I like with everything, like with my keys, I would check them 5 times. They're right in front of me. I'll check 5 times, see if make sure that they're there, and make sure that it's noted in my head. So the same thing with learning. If I watched a tutorial, or I watched how, they showed us how to do something, or someone showed us how to do something, I would have to replay it over and over again. And then I would have to try to do it myself, and then replay it over and over again. So it was just a lot of repetition. It's not really anything else that I used outside of the brain games that I was playing, but I had to do a lot of repetition, which is tough, because in coding, you kind of want to move fast. Now that I'm at this point now, like I can see actually how tough that was. But then I was just determined to make sure that I didn't only have this knowledge and didn't only know how to do it visually. I wanted to know that I understood what was going on and I was able to have these concepts, because I knew at that time I wanted to go to Fullstack Academy.
Gotcha. Okay. So during that time also, like while you were doing this learning, were you also working?
No, I was out on short-term disability. Yes, because there was no way, like I couldn't even go into the light getting a migraine. So, and then like my sentence composition. So I had to work on that as well. I had to work on my vocabulary. However, I did notice I had to take shortcuts when it came to my grammar. So instead of saying descriptive words, and I would say it, he, she, they, you know, there, that, instead of like saying, oh yeah, the car over there, or, you know, that tree, you know, that pine tree over there, like over there, that kind of thing. Because with learning how to code, I needed to have enough space in my brain to retain that information for me to code. And I found at that time, it was just very hard for me to work on my grammar again and be specific with stuff when I was also, you know, cramming my brain with new information that was new to me even before the car accident. So that was something I had to deal with once, you know, I was able to actually get in the field. And you know, that's another struggle in itself, but I'm working on it. So I'm trying to be more descriptive. This helps.
That's so nice. So then you're working, you know, you're hustling, you're relearning how to learn, how to code, how to talk. So at what point were you like, hey, I'm ready to go into a boot camp?
Well, so from December, I believe, all the way to June or July, because I did take one of the boot camp prep courses that Fullstack Academy had at the time. I think that's when I decided, after I took the prep course, that's when I decided that, okay, I'm ready to apply to get into Fullstack Academy. So, but at that time, I built up my tolerance. I was coding anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day. Just in my room coding 10 to 12 hours a day. Luckily, I had help with my family and helping me with my son. Because also with the traumatic brain injury, my temperament changed like that.
Yeah,
like,
I have a friend that was like that too.
Yeah, it's really hard because it's like you're a prisoner in your own body. Like you see things happening and you can't stop it, you know? So dealing with all of that, and then making sure that I don't, my son doesn't know why I'm this way. So you know, I wanted to make sure, especially sometimes children are a bit much. So with the fact that they're a little bit much sometimes, especially when they're in that like terrible 2s, terrible 3s, terrible 4s.
Yeah,
yeah, you already have like a low tolerance. So like the fact that I, you know, had this traumatic brain injury and I realized that it was hard for me to control my emotions, I made sure that whenever I felt I needed to take a step back, I would ask family to help. And luckily they were there, so.
Yeah, no, so good thing you had that support system, like people around you helping out with that. So that's great. So like once you actually started Fullstack, was that also full-time and you were 12 hours again?
Yeah. Oh God, Fullstack. It's a great program. Everything works. Highly suggested. However, I was coming from Long Island, so my daily commute, if I was lucky, was probably about 4 hours long because there's always train delays. So I would have at least a 4-hour commute into the city. I'd be there all day, sometimes to like 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Sometimes. Wait, so you said 4 hours one way?
No, all together.
Okay. So 2 hours in.
I mean, it depends on what's happening with the Long Island Railroad at that time. It could be 4 hours one way. So like that's what I'm saying, like 4 hours minimum. And because there's always delays with the Long Island Railroad. And you know, that's pretty much my only way in if I don't want to drive in every day. So I would have to leave very early. I would get up at like 4:30 in the morning, catch a 5 o'clock train, get there a little bit early, 5 o'clock or 5:30 train, get there a little bit early. And then I probably wasn't getting home until around 8 o'clock at the earliest. And I would have to do it all again. I had to do that for 5 months because the time that we started around the holidays. So we had like a longer break than what other classes have. Normally it's like a 3-month program, but we had a longer break. So it was about 5 months that I was doing that. And that wears on you. And there's no Wi-Fi on the Long Island Railroad. And it's very hard to keep a signal. So like, unless you have like an actual book in front of you, like it's not like you can sit there and code. Yeah. So it was very long days, but you know, it's all worth it. You do it not only for something that you feel that you would love, for someone you love. And at the time that was my son and myself. So
yeah, that's the biggest motivation. So someone you love, you're like, all right, like you can fail yourself easy. You can be like, all right, whatever. Like I deserve a break. But when you have someone else, you're like no, I can't fail them. Like I gotta do this for them. I say if I mess up, then I'm messing them up.
Yeah.
So it was like a hardship, but also that was a big stimulus. It seems. It
really was. So and it was hard every day. Every day I felt like giving up. Every day it came across my mind. And I was like, no, I have to do this. Not only for me, I have to do this for Mikey. So every day was a struggle. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. It's like you learn something one day and you're like, I don't understand. The next morning you finally understand it. You learn something new and you're like, I don't know where I'm going right now. So you're like, you don't understand what to do. Like, and then you understand it. And then another concept is introduced and you don't understand what's going on. But all you have to do is just keep on, you know, keep at it basically. And know that everybody else feels the same way. No matter if they're putting on like this, you know, facade of like, oh yeah, you know, I know everything. No, they don't. Because they're in Fullstack Academy, so obviously they don't. If they did, they would be a software engineer at some other company. So
everyone's learning. You know, like some people might learn a little bit quicker, but you know, you're all juniors. You all never had your first job in development, so
exactly. So that's the thing. Don't let people try to intimidate you. You just need to go at your own pace and just make sure that you don't give up. Everybody has the same like imposter syndrome and the same feelings, no matter if they're communicating that or not.
Yeah, exactly. So then when did you graduate? What month and year was that?
Graduated full stack. So 2017, I believe it was February 2017.
Okay, so we get out February 2017. I know the economy is definitely great at that time, but obviously the job search is the hardest part, I think, for most people. But you know, depending on what you're learning, that could be harder. So once you get into the job search, how did that start? Like, what was your experience? You know, going into it, talking to companies, or even just like approaching it.
So luckily, Fullstack teaches you all that. And they give you all the tools that you need. And this isn't just a plug, like they actually do. If they did it, the kind of person I am, I wouldn't even mention them if they didn't really help. So this is all like very legit. They're not paying me to say any of this. This is like, they prepared us very well for like the interviews we had and whether it was coding and also like kind of like the behavioral aspects of the interview and helping us with our resume. What I did find is that like, you know, obviously like there's like sexism and racism and that kind of thing. And interviewing, I did experience some of that. Won't name the companies, but I did let them know. Don't
put anyone on blast, but they know that they got issues.
They know. They know. And you know, some of those recruiters are still reaching out to me to like interview. I was like, I'll never interview with your company because what I experienced with my first interview with your company. So like, hopefully you guys change that for other people, but I will never work for your company. So
can you give like an example, like without naming a company, just like what like, is it like outright or is it like something where someone just didn't consider what they were saying?
So not only was this guy late to the interview, when he saw me, he looked like he was surprised. That's normally a big sign. And then it was supposed to be him telling me about the company. It wasn't supposed to be any technical questions or anything like that, because they wanted me. Out of the application, out of everybody that applied in my class, I was the only one who got the interview. So they chose my application out of everybody else's application. So, and primarily because we knew React. And he was just very dismissive, wasn't really paying attention. And then once I said I knew React, he's like, I don't even know React. And then so he started asking me all these React questions. I was like, isn't this supposed to be about the company? He's like, you're supposed to answer my questions. And I'm like, whatever. So it was just like, he was very dismissive. He ended it like 5 minutes early. He was, and this was like a remote friendly company before COVID. So he was like in his room, just like spinning in his chair and just like not paying attention. And it was just like a really bad experience. So I was just like, never again. I was like, because you have this person working for your company and you have them interviewing people. That's a problem on your side. Not only that he's hired,
putting out as like a representative, then that probably tells a lot about the company.
Yeah, and at the time, you know, they had all their employees listed on their website. I haven't looked at their website since. They might have updated it, but I have no interest in that company. So there were only like one, maybe two female engineers that I remember at that time, and the only person of color, I don't even think that they were in engineering for the American team. So it wasn't a place I wanted to work at anyway, especially if I was going to deal with people like him. But I let them know that I will never work for your company. I will never refer anybody to work for your company, and I will make that known. So. Yeah,
no, and it's good for you also, like at that time to realize that, because a lot of people when they're coming out of boot camp, they're like, yeah, like someone could spit on them and they'd be like, all right, like let me get a job just because they.
Yeah. Don't do that. You have your self-worth, you know. You can't put up with that stuff. Somebody mistreats you, you need to let it be known, because guess what? You're not getting that job anyway. They don't want you. That person doesn't want you. They're not going to let you go further. Don't take that. Write a note to the recruiter or to the company, the CEO of the company, if you find them on LinkedIn. Let them know your experience, very detailed, and then let them handle it from there.
Yeah, and then there's a saying like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Exactly.
So. All right, so those are some of the bad ones, but then what led to one of the good ones that eventually got you at Toast?
So I had 9 offers before Toast, but I felt like they weren't paying me what I was worth. So let's take a step back, because if you're getting 9 offers, you're doing something that is amazing. So like, what was your secret to getting nine offers? I was just being myself.
I like that.
And I'm not saying that like, oh, wow, I'm so amazing. But I'm just saying that like I studied and I prepared like I was taught to. I took this very seriously. I did mock interviews, the obvious leak coding. But when I was on site, like I had to just let myself know right before the interviews, like I am who I am. I'm not going to tailor my words to satisfy somebody, because I want them to know who I am when they hire me. I don't want them to hire somebody that they think I am. So and also studying sociology and like having that communication background, I was able to communicate with people, which in tech, a lot of engineers have problems with interpersonal communication. So that also helped me, that I'm able to communicate effectively with people, I believe, in my interviews.
No, I like that you mentioned like being yourself, because I noticed that also when I was interviewing for jobs, like coming out of college, like I used to read all these things like, okay, mention this, mention that, do it like this, say it like that. And like I'd focus on all these things before and then eventually not be myself. And when I was doing that method, I was not getting any offers. But then as soon as I flipped the switch to just being like, all right, like I'm going to talk about what I like to do, who I am, then I got my first offers.
Yeah. So it's that passion. It's that passion. They like to see something you're passionate about. You're pretending to be someone you're not, or memorizing a script. They're going to see right through that.
Yeah, you can be yourself pretty well, but like being someone else, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, unless you're a really great actor, then you're in the wrong business. So
Exactly. If you're Denzel Washington, then like you can kill any role.
Yeah. I love him. Great actor.
Great actor. But so going back to Toast, so you had 9 offers. Then what did they do right?
Well, I was referred by somebody at Fullstack for Toast, and they would always talk about how they love to work there. And I was like, this company sounds pretty cool, you know? So, and I really liked that, like, they're a POS system, Android POS system. So, you know, I really like that work. It's interesting to me. You're a full stack engineer and you're also like kind of a mobile engineer. And I just wanted to learn all the things at that time. So like, I'm like, oh, I don't mind doing that. That sounds cool. So I had my first few interviews with them. Did really, really well. And then like they had a hiring freeze. And then after their hiring freeze was over, they picked back up and I had my on-site and yeah, I did well on my on-site and it was a pretty fun experience too. You know, pair programming, like, you know, on the whiteboard and stuff like that, and like figuring out these problems and then how to optimize it. It was really fun. It was actually the most fun interview that I had. So
no, that's probably a part of it. You know, you had that good experience from the get-go. You're like, all right, if this is how good it is in the interview, like it's gonna be great in real life.
Yeah, it still is. It's an amazing company. You know, the co-founders and all like the C-suite people were very accessible, and they were just walking around the office every day, right around our cubicles in our area. So like it was like, oh hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh hi, that's not awkward at all. You know, I never had that before. But like they're all pretty cool, and I did learn a lot there, working in Android and also being like a full stack engineer there. And you know, I was able to find a mentor there. He was an architect, a software architect, okay. And he was also, I don't want to give out too much identifying information about him because I don't know if he'll appreciate it or not, or if he will be like, oh my God, I don't want people to look me up. So, but
no names, but you can hype him up.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was very, very helpful. Like, but I made sure when I went to him, I checked every edge case. I was like, okay, I can't figure out how to build this, but I'm going to just list every other option that I had before I go to him and try to exhaust that. Because like, you know, in order to learn, he would like ask you like, well, did you try this? Did you try that? And then you would actually have to show him like those steps that you tried. And a lot of people that went to him didn't do that. And I was like, I did that, and I did that every single time. And he was like, oh, okay. So then like our working relationship just grew, and you know, I learned so much from him. He was very awesome. That was the first mentor that I had in tech, you know, and that was at Toast.
So with the mentor, like, was it something that it just kind of developed naturally, or did you intentionally seek him out?
No, it was natural. I knew that he was a great engineer, software architect. So I knew he was great at what he did, and I wanted to learn. And I'm not one of those people that's like very, I guess you say like soft. Like you can tell me the truth, and as long as it's like in the right place and you're trying to help me, that's fine. And also if I feel like it's in the wrong place, I'm going to tell you that too. So it's fine. Just communicate honestly with me. And you know, a lot of people that dealt with him didn't. Excuse me. I'm talking a lot and I don't have water. Mistake number 1. So a lot of people that spoke with him didn't really accept that fact that he was very straightforward, but I respect that because that's how I am. So I wanted to learn. I wanted to know what I was doing wrong, and I wanted to know how I could fix that. And he always showed me the right way, and he had a lot of patience with me, and it was just like a great learning experience. So I didn't seek him out. I just knew he was the best, and I wanted to learn. So
no, it's huge. You know, I feel like everyone should have someone that they can, you know, ask these questions to. Obviously, after exhausting all options,
yeah,
but someone that, you know, they can kind of be vulnerable, get that advice, especially in the early stage where you might know how to do something, but you might not know how to do it the best way. So that's where the mentorship comes in.
Yes, because me exhausting all my options, it forced me to learn. It forced me to seek out all the ways to my knowledge of how to solve this issue that I would try and why it wouldn't work. So it was a learning experience, but like you're also not doing yourself a disservice, not doing that before you ask for help. And you're also doing them a disservice because it just shows like, okay, so you don't really want to learn. You just want somebody to solve this for you. Like, no, like it's a two-way street.
Oh, exactly. So you had this mentor, which obviously helped a lot. But in terms of what was like the biggest surprise of the first year being an engineer compared to what you thought it was going to be?
The biggest surprise?
Yeah. So like, maybe you thought, hey, like this process will be like this, or maybe my day will be like this, but then it was something else.
It was a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Okay.
Because all those long days and nights traveling to Fullstack and being at working, learning at Fullstack, that was tough. And now I'm doing basically the same thing. And it's like, oh, no pressure. I know how to do this, or I have an idea of how to do this. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting paid for this too. This is so easy. Like
that's nice. Yeah.
So you're definitely prepped for the real world when it happens.
Right. So just to touch on the mentor stuff again. So Angelica was writing nice to see the full circle of you talking about your great mentors and how you're a wonderful mentor yourself. Then she was asking, what advice would you give to people wanting to mentor? It's all about honesty.
Angelica, she's an amazing person. And that is a great question. Angelica's my coworker and also a dear friend. So it is about honesty. Like in order to help anyone, you have to be honest with yourself and you have to be honest with them. Like you can't act like you know everything. When they ask you a question, if you don't know, say, I'll find out later. Like I don't know right now, but I'll find out for you later. And then actually do it. Follow up. Don't just, pay them lip service, actually follow up with that. And, being honest, that lowers barriers. But you also have to know, because there are different personalities out there, you have to tell them ahead of time, like, I'm really honest. How do you deal with that? So, there's you could be honest, but there's also tact. Me, I don't appreciate tact too much. I like brutal honesty, but there are some personalities that need that beat around the bush before you tell them the truth. So as long as like you guys state upfront, like what is your preferred communication method and how well do you deal with criticism, or not just criticism, areas of improvement, that should get you off on the right start as a mentor and your mentee.
Gotcha. All right. So looking at Toast now. So you had Toast for about 10 months, I saw on LinkedIn. So what prompted you to go to the next job? Was it, you wanting a new challenge, something happened, or just a recruiter coming up to you?
So I'm born and raised in New York. I miss New York, and I had an opportunity. So I was at a tech conference, and I forgot. I can't believe I forgot it right now. Again, that's like part of like my nervousness right now. But I was at a tech conference for women that was based around Beyonce, Flawless Hacks. There you go. I got it.
Flawless Hacks.
And I was teaching people how to, I was teaching a workshop on how to build a small virtual reality app, because I love virtual reality. Who doesn't? I love 3D growing up. So now I could build this stuff and I could show people how to do it. I loved it. So that it was what I was teaching. And somebody I thought was my peer actually was a really accomplished woman, and still is a very accomplished woman in tech. And she was like, oh, are you interested in coming back to New York? And I said, yes. And so she let me know of opportunities available, which is at the New York Times. I was also interviewing with another company, which I turned down for the New York Times because I had offers from both of them. And at the time, like, the New York Times, it's
big name.
yeah, and the other company is a big name too, or
Yeah.
but it's just that how often do you get a chance to have an offer from the New York Times and work for them, especially as an engineer so early in your career? So I went with the New York Times and New York Times cooking team, cooking.nytimes.com. Make sure you visit. That is the team that I work on. And, it's amazing. I love the company, and I also love our team. And, when your mission aligns with your beliefs, like, why not? So.
Gotcha. So with that position, I know I saw on LinkedIn it says associate software engineer. So was this kind of like a step back to take a step forward, or was the associate just kind of like thrown on there?
Can't say too much about that. However, it was like borderline, but I know that it worked out for me to take a step back to take a step forward. So I was like, I don't care. It's the New York Times. I just want to go there. I'm not picky about the title. I know what my work I know what work I've done, and I know my skills. So I don't care about the title that you give me. I already know what I can do and what I do. So I don't care how that looks to other people.
Yeah, I like the mentality because, with titles nowadays, like there's so much, like I feel like 50% of titles are like mistitled anyways. So like you said, if you found a spot you like, it matches your personality, matches your goals, where you're trying to go, then, go for it. Who cares what the title is?
Yeah. I had no problem with that. I was like, yeah, okay. Like they thought it would be an issue. So they on their end, they thought it would be more of an issue than it actually was. Cause I was like, I don't care. I accept the position. That's fine. I don't care.
So as an engineer at New York Times, like what's like the main thing you work on? I think you mentioned it for a second before.
Yes, cooking.nytimes.com. That is our cooking app. Yes, that's our cooking app for the New York Times. Be sure to check it out. A lot of amazing recipes. I think I know we have at least over 19,000 recipes. So insane, and then you should also follow our Instagram page. Don't know that offhand, but we have one. Put in Cooking NYT and you're going to find it. So yeah, it's an awesome team to work on. You started out a really small team, and now we have a ton of engineers and product people and designers and managers, and it's great.
No, I gotcha. So is this iOS development, or is this web development, or Android?
So I joined as a software engineer with our web app. I do primarily front end work, building features, because I just love to see friends and family and see our users interact with features that I built. I was like, I built that, and millions of people use this feature. So like, I love that. But I do work on the back end sometimes, like my current project, which I can't talk too much about, so don't ask me. Okay. But and we have different teams. So when I first came there, we only had an iOS team, and that was a smaller team at the time, smaller than what we were with front end and back end engineers. And then we started building up our Android team. So now we have like a full Android team, full iOS team. So we have the native apps covered, and then we have our front end and back end engineers as well.
Cool. Nice. So looking, outside, like basically your community stuff. So I saw, you're involved in a lot of organizations. So what have been the main one or two that you've been involved with, and what's been your role with them?
So I might need to update that. I haven't been that involved with them recently. I was more involved with them when I was a brand new engineer and I was becoming an engineer. But right now I'm just more focused on our task force. So I created a task force at the New York Times called Black and Latinx in Technology. Basically creating like our initiatives are recruiting Black and Latinx software engineers, increasing our recruitment from there, retaining the talent in our community within the company, because it makes no sense to recruit engineers of color if we're not going to retain them and they're not happy with the atmosphere and the culture of the company. And also like reaching out in our advancement. So we have programs like for our advancement within the New York Times without saying too much. And we also reach out to communities. So we work with our outside communities and like CUNY schools and other like boot camps with like underprivileged people and try to work together, HBCUs, and we try to work together to get more people into tech and have them also know more about the New York Times. Because when you think of the New York Times, you don't really think about a tech company. And we are a tech company. We have a huge tech organization. So just bringing that awareness to different people and bringing more diversity to the New York Times is something that, we've been focused on. So I've been primarily focused on that. And that's something that I was focused on before even joining the New York Times, because I saw how becoming a software engineer changed my life and my financial state and changed my son's life. And there are a lot of people out there, male or female, that are in a similar situation that I have been, where, they have children to take care of, or they're not happy where they're at in life because they know that they're destined for so much more. And they don't know that jobs like this exist and they pay really well if you know your worth. I'm going to state that.
Yeah, awareness, that's step one.
Yeah. So, I wanted to let more of us, more people of color know, like, you can get into tech. There's different ways to get into tech. And by different ways, I mean, like, there's, product managers, product owners, product analysts, there's software engineers. Sales. I mean, it's sales. But I always say there's a caveat to that, because there are typical office jobs where you can work for a tech company. But what I've seen is that you have to be like super experienced and have like a super amazing resume in order to get a job at those companies, if you're going to do like sales or advertising or marketing, like that kind of thing. But when you're coming in like as a software engineer, all you need is your technical skills, and your technical skills will speak for themselves. Now, that's hard because it's not easy to get into these companies, but your skills speaking for itself, as opposed to like having to have your resume speak for you when it comes to like typical office jobs. So I always say, yes, you can get into tech like that, but it's definitely going to be a lot more competitive than it is getting into tech as a software engineer.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now you kind of gone away from that. Obviously, everyone's busy with a lot of different things in 2020. But kind of looking in retrospect, so looking at how far you've come from, the accident, and then even before that, where, you weren't in tech. So like, what's like I guess you kind of talked about it, but what's like the biggest thing that made that happen?
That made me jump into tech?
No, that just like got you to this point, like dealing with all like this hardship. You had your kid in the whole time. Like
so I would say the biggest thing is my determination. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard.
How do you keep it up?
How do I keep that up? It's self-talk,
Self-talk, okay.
Yeah, you can't let what other people say or what other people try to do throw you off. Because if you do that, other people are always going to control your life. And who are you living for? So you need to be able to stay strong, have self-talk. A good support system does help, but they're not always going to be there for you. You need to be that support for yourself as well. And when things are happening and things are bad, you need to say, like, I can do this, or I know my skills, I know my worth, I don't have to take this, kind of thing. So
I like it. All right. So let's close up with two questions, ask every guest. So first one is, if you're graduating from boot camp today, what would be your plan to land a job quickly?
Plan to land a job quickly, lead code heavily, understand the basics of JavaScript, understand advanced JavaScript. It's always good to know React because that's being used all over in Redux, but also know vanilla JavaScript. Because a lot of people don't know vanilla JavaScript, and actually like coding something in vanilla JavaScript is a bit more impressive than using frameworks at times. So I would say like lead coding, practice, practice, practice. And it sounds like the same thing everybody's going to tell you, but if everybody's telling you the same thing, then and they're software engineers, and obviously it works. Now, if they were working some other job, then I wouldn't listen. So, but if we're software engineers and we're telling you the same thing, like, do it. That's what you gotta do.
Sounds good. And then for last question, so what should every bootcamp grad be doing in the first year of their career to set themselves up for success?
You should try to learn as much as you can, but be organized with it. Learn on the job. Ask why. I didn't care. I was asking why all the time. I didn't care if people thought I was stupid. Guess what? I'm asking why, so I don't have to ask you later. And I won't need your help. So if I'm asking all my whys in the first 3 months to understand the architecture, understand things that I don't know, understand, concepts that I may not know, 6 months later, I'm good. But if I don't ask all those why questions and a year later, I'm like, why this? And it's something that I should have known already, then I look stupid. So they're, if they think you're stupid, they're going to think you're stupid now or later. I don't really care what people think of me. All I care about is how I learn, and using that knowledge, not only for this job, if I have to go to another job, and using it for the rest of my life. So don't be afraid to ask why. Don't be afraid to like ask for a coffee chat to understand something or to get to know somebody. Like, step out on the limb, put yourself out there. And I know that a lot of us can be introverted. I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm only extroverted when I have to be, like now. But luckily I have personality.
I know what you mean.
So, that works. Personality works. Anyone who tells you it doesn't, doesn't have personality. So, just use that to your advantage, and you're going to get more comfortable at doing that. And be yourself. Don't worry too much about what other people are thinking, what they're saying, what they're doing. If they have a problem with you and you did nothing to them, that's a reflection of them, not you. And are they paying your bills? No. And if they are, you have the skills to get another job. So don't worry. Do what you need to do. And always ask questions.
Yep. Start with why. All right. So there you have it, everyone. So Charity dropped a lot of inspiration on us, a lot of lessons. If people want to get more of you, where should they go? I know we have your Twitter, which is Char in real life, and real is with 2 E's.
Yes.
Anywhere else?
Also an IG. So at Twitter and IG, you can get me there. I am still charity.corsino at LinkedIn. I need to update that. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. A lot going on.
Yeah, she got married, so congrats.
Thank you. Very happy place in my life right now. Newly married and happily in love, and our whole family's together. So. No,
I'm really happy to hear that, especially after everything you've been through, like being a good spot, with a good person. Now that someone's probably a little bit older, had a good job. Like, you killed it. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me again. No, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For everyone else, I'll see you next season, but I promise you we'd end up someone great. We had one that was great tonight. But otherwise, let me know how I can help in your job search. You can ask Charity too. And for now, until next time. Good night, everyone.